Determination of quorum. Here. Thank you. Next item is adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt, or I don't see any changes coming? Second. Motion by Alderman Lewis and second by Alderman Laurenti to adopt the agenda. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Now's the time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue that is not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I have no speaker request forms. I don't see anybody that I'm missing so far. Looks good. We'll move on to consent items. And again, I do not have any speaker requests for items that are on the consent calendar. And so we'll go on to removing any consent items. Is there anyone wishing to remove items from the consent calendar? Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. Items 11 and 13, please.
11 and 13. I'm not seeing anyone else, and let's pull item 6 as well. All right, so now the chair will entertain a motion to adopt items 1 through 13 with the exception of 11 and 13, 6, 11 and 13, excuse me. Motion by Alderman Laurenti, second by Alderman Lewis. Any other questions? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 is a resolution for writing off uncollectible account receivable accounts. And I know a lot of us have been receiving emails and phone calls on this item. So if Finance Officer Pauline Sumption could address some of the comments that have been coming to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'll address or try to address the issue as to why we don't send them to a collection agency. I visited with a collection agency last night, and they did indeed indicate that they are not privy to DMV records. They are very confidential. In fact, I just before this meeting received a copy of our MOU with the DMV. I forwarded it to City Attorney Joel Landine for his review on some of that. But first blush, when I look at that, we are not allowed to give that information to anybody other than law enforcement agencies within the boundaries of the City of Rapid City. So with that in mind, again, first blush, I'm not an attorney, and there's some codes in there that I would have to find first and look at to see what the rules are. But that would not be an option to send them to collection agency. Right now, our system, when the state decided to have it where your license plate began going with you versus with the car when you sold it or got rid of it, there were glitches within our accounting system that we use for parking tickets. Because of that glitch, that's where it started, where we were not getting correct information, and there was some question about the validity of the information that we were getting as opposed to what was in our system. Jim Gilbert gets, for lack of a better term, data dump from the DMV on a fairly regular basis, but the last time he looked at it was about 6 months ago, I think is what we talked about earlier, and he's here too for more questions on that type of thing. But there's some issues with the way that the data is converted over to us to be able to import it into our system. So that has not been able to be done for a while. However, in also discussing it with him, there is a way within our parking ticket system, to run a report that will give us a name and address that goes along with the license plate number. And we could do a mail merge somehow and send these letters out to the 10,000 plus people that we're looking at writing off their tickets. Stamps are about 50 cents now, so you're looking at $5,000 plus to mail those out, not including cost of the envelope, the paper, staff time to do it, preparing the letter, that type of thing. And there is no guarantee that anybody would actually submit payment on that. In addition, when I was looking at those, and I had sent out an email earlier, a lot of these tickets, over 3,000 of them, are for $5 and less. There are some that are even a quarter. Typically, in the $5 ones, what's happened is that the person that actually received the parking violation paid their parking ticket, but they paid it after the 3-day window before a late fee was added on. So a lot of those $5 amounts are for the late fee and not for the ticket themselves. The actual ticket has been paid for. So while we can do a letter, I'm not sure the cost-benefit ratio on that, quite frankly. I also know that it would have to be subsequent to the time in which our new website goes live, because the priorities of the IT department right now are focused on that. And I cannot do it without the help of the IT department at this point.
Very good. Stand by for questions. Alderman Laurenti, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Chair. And if I could ask the finance officer a question on this as well, I guess it kind of opens up a thought for me.
You may ask the question,
Her
yes.
train of conversation there. Speaking of the DMV, and you're talking about data from the DMV, my question to you is, I just started thinking of liens on titles. Is that related to what we're talking about at all? Do we have that ability with like having a lien on a title? So if that's sold, you know what I mean, type of thing?
I honestly have no idea. That would be an attorney question. I do want to, when there's an opportunity, I have some more things I would like to add to what I said earlier, but I don't know if Joel knows. Can you put a lien on the title?
I have never seen that. I mean, I would probably need to do some research, but I seriously doubt it. The city has some general authority to do parking, but without specific authority because that would obviously take cooperation of the state and the county to do that, and then there would be a cost to them for doing that. So I'm pretty confident when I say no, we don't have the ability to put a lien on somebody's title of their car.
Just wondering, because I know we do it with property, real estate property, but it just stimulated the thought when you were talking DMV, and we're talking, what, 100 grand?
106,000, I think it
So
was.
we're talking municipalities all over the state, so I just wondered if something like that was in place already, so.
No, but keep in mind, it's probably only the 5 or 6 biggest ones that really probably generate any parking revenue at all. And, there is specific authority for us and for the county to do that, and they have processes in place. And generally, you're talking about more significant dollar amounts when you're talking about bills related to property versus, like Pauline said, a $5 parking ticket or $5 owing on a parking ticket.
Correct.
So, and Pauline, just to finish that, this is common. I mean, I remember we're doing this every year where we're dealing with uncollectibles, I should say.
Correct. Every year, it has been 2 years since we've done the parking tickets. We were going live March 2nd last year for our accounts payable on our Tyler system, so that took priority from my office. So this will be the second time that we've done it since I've been with the city for the parking tickets. However, I was reviewing back through some council minutes and agendas, and ambulance write-offs, we're looking at 1 or 2 times a year. We're writing off on collectible accounts there. Some of it's because of statute of limitations. Some of it's because of what, like Medicare will reimburse us for, bankruptcies, that type of thing. Water bills we do or utility bills we also do on an annual basis. The only thing that we have as far as teeth, like with the utility bills, is if they don't pay it and they're still a customer of ours, we can shut their water off. We have some other things in place where we keep that on the books. If they come back to the municipality, they're required to pay what's back owing. We also require landlords to cover their tenants' water if they get a new tenant in, that type of thing. So we also have some general billing that we do that we write off on an annual basis. So this is very common. It just happens to be parking tickets this time.
All right, thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you, Alderman Laurenti. And if I can just follow up just a couple of questions for our finance officer. Pauline, you might want to hit that again one more time, why it was over a longer period of time this time around. Why was it, 2 years?
It was 2 years this time because we were in the middle of our going live with our software upgrade for accounts payable and our purchasing system and general financials.
Correct, and it's not, I just want to explain to everybody, it's just not normal practice, and it's only because of an IT switch over or change over to a new software package is the only reason why this is being delayed on that. Pauline, have you got another percentage-wise of, I saw some numbers percentage-wise of the total amount. If I recall for 15 and 16, it might have even been 14 as well. Somewhere in the % of the total is what this 100,000 is.
Well, I did it two different ways. One of them was based on the number of tickets issued in those years versus the number of tickets that, or amounts owing that we're writing off. And I believe in 2011 it ends up being like 12%, and 2012 ended up being 17%. When we're talking dollar amount, it's a little difficult to tell because the only thing that I have to go off of is the ending accounts receivable number. That doesn't take into account anything that has been ticketed and paid throughout the year. So the percentages actually look a little higher when you compare it that way.
Yep, thank you.
Can I
Hopefully
just add
yes,
one other thing?
Please, go ahead.
Even if we could access the stuff with the DMV and send it to a collection agency, there are multiple tickets on here from out-of-state people, and our DMV would not have that information, so I still would not be able to gather that information to be able to send either a letter or them to collections.
Good point. Thank you. Hopefully that gets a lot of that information out there to the public, because we've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails on this one. So thank you for that information. And if there's any other additional comments or questions from the public, if you can get them to us before Monday night, I would appreciate any communication on that. Sending it to us, or you can send it to the mayor's office. So I need a motion on item 6 is to adopt a resolution. If I can have a motion to adopt a resolution for item number 6. Is there a second? Motion's been made in second to adopt the resolution 2016-025 for writing off uncollectible accounts, receivable accounts for parking violations. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 11 is a resolution to amend the City of Rapid City compensation plan by establishing the new position of the solid waste mechanic within Public Works. And Alderman Laurenti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And if I can, I'd like to ask Public Works, Mr. Tech, a question on this item.
You may.
Mr. Tech, the position, first off, I just wanted to know, because it wasn't noted on recommendations or funding sources, I just wanted to make sure that this was a budgeted item for 2016.
This is not a creation or a request for additional FTEs. This is just a new creation for job description for Mechanic 3, and it is covered in 2016 budget.
So it's not an increase to your budget?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't then going to have to deal with a supplemental. So thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Now, the chair is looking for a motion to approve the resolution. Second. Motion made by Alderman Laurenti, seconded by Alderman Drew. Yes, you have some further comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 13 is authorize the submission of Historic Preservation Commission certified local government grant application and receipt of funds associated with the grant. Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. And I have a question for the Finance Office, if I may, please.
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was looking at another note. Sorry.
Misassumption. On this particular item, what cost center are we looking at for the local match?
We actually, most of our local match is with staff time. We do have an org code, and I don't know it off the top of my head. Sarah Hansel is here. She actually, this is the division that she works for, partly. So, but there is a separate code for that.
Okay, my question goes beyond that, goes to It's not noted as well on this one, whether it was a budgeted item or we were planning that for 2016 or...
We are, if I might on that one, this is how we operate our historic preservation program. We always get a grant from the state. It has been an ongoing funding source for many, many years.
Thank you. If I may, Alderman Larenty, introduce Sarah Hansel of the Historic Preservation Group, and I'll let you introduce yourself again. Hey, Sarah, go for it. If you can try to answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Pauline covered it very well. This
Sarah,
item is
could you introduce yourself and
Yes.
your association with the city?
Sarah Hansel, Long Range Planning Division of Community Planning and Development Services.
Thank you.
And this item is to submit a grant application to the South Dakota State Historic Preservation Office. We're requesting $24,000, and as Pauline indicated, this money is matched with staff time coming out of the 707 budget item.
All right, thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. And Chair is now looking for a motion to adopt. Move to approve. Approve, okay. Second. Motion made by Alderwoman Drew and seconded by Alderman Larenty to approve item number 11. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Now we move on to the non-consent items. And again, I don't have any public request forms, public speaker comment request forms. And so we do have one. Okay. I was going to call on you anyway, Austin. So, all right. So now we'll move on to. Thank you. If it's all right, Austin, we'll just wait till we get to your item, and then which is coming up right now anyway. So we'll let you speak on this. So item number 14 is from Austin Knold and Colleen Vandermeer to approve a request to authorize serving and consumption of alcohol, not a sale, at a wedding dinner on property owned by the city of the location immediately east of Canyon Lake Resort on June 4th, 2016 at 5 p.m. to midnight. And I assume this is the fiancé with you today.
Yep.
Yes, good guess. You have the floor. Go ahead. You've got 3 minutes to explain what we've got in mind here, besides the marriage.
Well, I guess at this point, we pretty much went through the planning commission and everything. We got approved to put a tent in front of the Chop House, the original Chop House, now Canyon Lake Resort. I guess we just want to request to serve alcohol and consume alcohol on public land. We will be appointing 3 people to wristband and serve all the 21-year-olds of it. Everybody will have a band. And basically, that's where we're going to be doing right out there. Just want to be able to have alcohol there.
Thank you, Austin. We'll stand by for questions.
Okay.
And we'll go to Alderwoman Darla Drew.
I just want to make sure that we know exactly the area you're talking about. It's towards the lake, on the grounds outside of the Chop House?
Correct. Directly in front of the Chop House, between Canyon Lake and the Chop House. Be right in the middle right there.
Are they supplying the wine and beer then, or is that just something?
We
at your
will be
expense?
supplying the beer. We were renting a keg wagon with
Okay.
just the taps on the side, I guess, with the kegs inside of it. And then, like I said, we'll have it roped off and they'll be serving it.
I think the wristbanding is a really great idea, and we do this a lot on public lands, so I don't have any problem with saying yes to this.
Okay.
Would you like to introduce your fiancé?
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
This is my fiance, Colleen Vandermeer.
I'm Colleen.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
I have another question from Alderman Larenty. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I actually had a question for the police chief, if I may.
You may.
Chief, does this create another task for you, the approval of this? Does this become part of your agenda?
It does not. We have multiple weddings every Saturday night throughout the summer in the city and typically have zero or near zero problems, so no opposition on our end.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that. Now for the soon-to-be wedded couple, congratulations on your
Oh, thank you.
your wedding. As I told my fellow alderwoman here, I was for this until I understood that you were going to serve it and that they were going to consume it as well. I had to say it because she laughed, and I thought most people don't laugh at my joke, so I just thought I'd repeat that. But
taste
no,
is
we
bad.
support it, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have interesting conversations up here once in a while, so thank you for participating. Anything else you would like to add on as a last-second comment?
Not really.
Again, congratulations. Thank you for coming forward today. The chair is looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
A motion approved by, made by Alderwoman Drew and second by Alderman Laurenti. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
And be careful. Thanks you. Item number 15 is a request from Doyle Estes to have the council reconsider its previous decision not to allow him or any of his entities from posting subdivision surety. And I'm right now at the moment, let's see, let's go to Alderwoman Drew.
I move to approve and recommend forwarding this to council on Monday night.
Motion made and seconded to forward to council for Monday night's hearing. City Attorney Joel Landine, do you have any additional comments to make?
I will probably be sending you all an email prior to Monday night, kind of laying out but the reasons for it. But I will say that we discussed it internally between Public Works, Legal, and Planning, and we support the request.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion been made and second to approve. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, thank you. Motion carries. 1 second, I am looking at some notes here. Okay, all right. Let's move on to item number 16 is First Nation Sculpture Garden Project, request for city funding. Is there anyone here to speak on that topic? None. Yes, go ahead and
My thing isn't.
oh, it is not working? Okay, all right. Alderwoman Darla Drew, go for it.
Well, I have been in support of this project for a few years, but recently the scope of the ATA project, the Indian Art Market and Powwow Grounds, that project may change, whether in location or in the people guiding the project. I would like to see the two groups work together. Also, I have a feeling that it's limited in its scope of where it is right now at Halley Park. There's just 4 bus that they're doing, which almost indicates they don't expect any more wonderful philosophers, doctors, or game changers to come out of the American Indian community forever. I'd like to have them have some more vision for the project so it could grow and have the room to do that. So at this time, I'm going to withdraw my support from this and hope that we can get some collaboration and possibly some bigger vision for the project.
Understand. Thank you. We'll move on to Alderman Laurenti.
I'm going to make a motion to forward to council without recommendation, and if I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Still have the floor.
Thank you. My question goes to the financing of it, and I was wondering if I'm asking the finance officer a question here. Pauline, on this particular item, we do not have a funding source at this point?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we need to deal with that possibly at the next council meeting. All right, thank you, and that's all I need. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the chair has no additional comments as well at this time. So we'll vote on the motion is to forward without recommendation to the full council for this Monday night. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 17 is from Alderman Laurenti to move the city fireworks display to the 4th of July. Alderman Laurenti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to just make a few comments. I mean, I know that when we made the change to New Year's Eve It seemed to make sense at the time, but I know that I had regret soon after that vote, and I feel like I'm fixing something here, being a veteran, and I think for all veterans concerned, it's something that honors the people who have served in the past and ones who are serving now, and I guess ultimately those who are going to serve. But the fact of the matter is, the city spends, if I'm right, about $30,000 on the fireworks display every year, and we have that budget available, obviously, for this year. So I'm hoping that this is something that can be done. I'm hoping that from a fire standpoint, the fire chief, I'd like to ask him a question, if I may, on this particularly. Chief?
You may, go for it.
Thank you. Chief, can you weigh in on this? I just want to make sure that this is something that can be done this year, and if you have any concerns or that type of thing that can be aired out before the next council meeting. Thank you. If you would, please.
Chief Multivern?
Very good, thank you. Just to provide a little background and I guess a little bit of a historical perspective, and then background as to where we are today, and then perhaps a discussion to move forward to, I guess, better educate us for a decision what to do this year. But as we all know, that display has historically been shot off from the Executive Golf Course down in the Founders Park area, historically on or about the 4th of July, depending on the date and what night worked best for the community. It was also done in conjunction with the Heritage Festival that was historically being held over Memorial Park at the same time, of which has basically gone away as we once knew it. At its peak, that fireworks show drew approximately a crowd of 20,000 people, give or take. The fireworks display itself takes about 2 to 3 days to set up, again, down at the golf course. There's a contract fireworks company, a national company that does this all over, a combination of special events, 4th of July, New Year's Eve, and the like. They'll come in, and that display typically runs 22 to 25 minutes in duration, with music being played over a local radio station. And then where the city gets involved is we do issue the permit, inspect the grounds before, during, and after the setup, and then obviously during the show itself, we assist in any type of community involvement and just policing of the area and making sure that it's a safe event for all those attending. Like you mentioned, Councilman Mulroney, what precipitated this change was extraordinary drought and extreme fire danger in 2012. It forced the show to New Year's Eve because we had to cancel it because we had, again, extreme fire conditions at the time of the show when it was slated for the 4th of July. This issue also, I think, became more sensitive for our community as soon as Mount Rushmore quit doing their annual display. So a lot of the crowd in the Black Hills started to migrate into Rapid City when our show was continuing. So this whole thing kind of led to this big decision in 2012 with those factors. This is also a partnership with the Parks and Rec Department with the city, also their specifically Executive Golf Course and their staff, Rapid City Police Department, and Destination Rapid City. And that was a culmination of those people coming together for that December 31st to switch from the 4th of July to a later time of the year. The decision points, in addition to the unpredictable fire danger, were lost revenue that was cited by Executive Golf Course when we do it in the summer, course cleanup and damage in the summer. There were public safety concerns that were voiced by both police and fire in terms of congestion, an already busy evening with the 4th of July, and our call volume typically really spikes that weekend. Crowd control was becoming an issue, and then just because of the congestion in the downtown corridor, it adversely affects our ability to respond to normal emergencies in the downtown area. The site was compromised with the large apartment complex that's being constructed, and then the popularity of that vast trail system that's on the Hanson Larson Memorial Park area, or M Hill. If that area was to have a fire at the base of the hill, we would have a large evacuation, life safety concern, because obviously fire is going to travel upward. You have several hundred people up on the hill observing the fireworks, and that was also a concern in the summer for us. Also, we had competition with other shows that were cited as one of the reasons. It's typically 4 to 6 other shows going on in the community related to the 4th of July. We know Examples are Post 22, Elks Estates. There's other shows that go on in and around Rapid City, not to mention roughly 10 or 12 shows going on around the Black Hills. And then what Destination Rapid City brought to the table was their position was this added yet another good quality event to Rapid City in the downtown area on another holiday. Knowing that we already had 4 to 6 shows going on in and around the community on the 4th of July, let's just move the cities to New Year's, and that creates another opportunity for people to get out and enjoy downtown Rapid City and what it has to offer. So with the feedback we got just after the first of the year, just a few months ago, I spoke to the mayor and I said, you know what, let's hear from the public and see what they have to say. So we advertised a Survey Monkey we did on our Facebook site and advertised it through the local media. We had about 160 respondents weigh in on that with just very, very simple 4 or 5 questions. Of that, 50% of those respondents did a plan to attend the New Year's Eve display that evening. Of those, 57% were satisfied with the display, 35% were dissatisfied, citing things like weather. They were able to get out of their vehicle, they had to stay inside of the car, which took away from the feeling of the event. And then 8% really didn't care either way. Another question then, 38% wanted to see the show stay on New Year's Eve. 56% of the respondents wanted to move it back to the 4th of July. 3% just wanted it canceled altogether. And 3% didn't want to be responsible to make the decision. And I think I was probably most in line with those 3%. So today's reality, you're correct, there has been an annual amount allocated for the fireworks display by the city of $30,000. Keep in mind, $20,000 is city money and $10,000 came from Destination Rapid City. So there was a partnership there. It has been noted to us that Destination Rapid City has stepped back from their financial contribution, so now the city really only has their $20,000 to allocate towards fireworks. We were under a 3-year contract for 13, 14, and 15 for those 3 years. So having shot off New Year's Eve 2015, our contract is now expired. So we're looking to dust the cover off of this thing and figure out what we want to do with fireworks. So the timeliness of this is there. So right now, currently, we have no plans for a fireworks display. We have no contract. We really don't even have a really solid agreement on what date to even do the display. Reached out to our vendor that we had the contract with, and he said, as of the day before yesterday, he said it would be next to impossible to get any fireworks company to come in this late in the game and try to do a show for this July 4th. So we're behind the power curve in terms of the timeliness of it all. Now, his suggestion would be, if you wanted to do another multi-year contract, we could get out here for New Year's Eve for this year and then immediately switch over to July 4th for 2017 and 2018 or however many years you wanted to do it. But this year for his company, and he said you're probably going to run into that with any major fireworks vendor because they've booked out their shows for the 4th of July already. I mentioned Destination Rapid City, and I would agree it's time for change because of, again, a number of these late developments with the fireworks displays. So just a recommendation, or if I could put it out there, maybe it's time to get a few of us department heads together or some of our staff, maybe a member of the council as a liaison for the community, to sit down and discuss the issue. We could, again, talk about, do we want to have a display? Are we committed to this each year? When would we have it, 4th of July versus New Year's? Where would we have it? We are having some difficulties pulling this display off in the current footprint that it has to take. There's a pretty large area for safety that we have to cordon off, and so that's a concern of ours. And then what would the dollar amount be? And then who in the department, or in the city, I should say, would be responsible for event planning? We want to establish a committee or put it under one department or another. I can tell you, it's for me personally, it's not a real good fit for the fire department. We're really in the permitting process and the inspection of the display itself, but as far as event planning, I'm not very good at it. So I'll leave it to you for direction. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Alderman Laurenti, you still have the floor if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Chair. And I knew there was some quite a bit that needed to come together to make it happen. And maybe I'm trying to think of the best way to move forward, but I guess a direction for staff to put together. I don't know if we need a group. Maybe it would be best to make a motion to direct staff to. I'd like to see it get back to July 4th, purely because of the amount of not only the honor thing and our independence, but the fact that the amount of people, of Rapid Cityans that have the ability during the summer to be able to see the display compared to what it would be on New Year's Eve. So I think it pales in comparison, especially if it's very cold, as some of your respondents said, which was a small sample, of course. But so all of those things come together for me. I'd like to see a motion to direct staff to move the fireworks display beginning 2017 to around the July 4th time period. I'd like to see it on July 4th, honestly, but that way we can move forward with some direction for staff, and they can come together, as the chief has suggested, to deal with the many different things that need to come together to make this happen. And with the approval beginning the 17th or 2017, if we need to come together with and create a group to make that happen, so be it. But I think we should move forward with a motion to approve to move fireworks beginning 2017 on July 4th. I can't make that motion because I've spoke, but
Understand that if I can ask for a clarification from the chief on one point before you make a, okay? Chief Multiverne, just a clarification. You made a comment about having the department staff level people getting together to form a committee or a task force. Is that, are you, I assume you've had this discussion with the rest of the department heads?
Yes, I have. You know, that's a formal description. We obviously do these types of meetings all the time with the department directors and members of our staff. I would just say that, I guess to specify, really the two biggest issues coming out of that discussion that we'll need to address would be an additional $10,000 approximately. That would, if we go ahead and decide to move forward with a fireworks display that is city funded and sponsored, which I anticipate will come out of this, we'll need to determine if that $30,000 figure is the right dollar amount, which I believe it is. And then we'll be looking for probably some type of a multi-year contract to, again, establish some sustainability and just some consistency with the show. Probably the biggest issue that is going to be the challenge for us to work together would be to look at locations. And the biggest concern that brought this to the forefront was the location. It's getting more and more difficult to shoot off that type of a display in the middle of downtown Rapid City. And with the development that's occurred in that Founders Park area with the apartment buildings and the office buildings, that footprint continues to shrink. And so that's going to be probably the biggest problem, in that I wouldn't be surprised if we came back with an alternate, or maybe even a couple of alternate sites for a city-sponsored fireworks display.
Chief, if I can go to Alderman Drew, and maybe we'll kind of figure out something from a motion, or let's see what she has to ask first. Alderman Drew.
Yes, well, after the Civic Center and chickens, the people that I hear from the most are fireworks, people that want this moved back to the 4th. And so I have a couple questions for the chief as well, if I may.
You may.
So when we do this in January, where's the staging ground?
It's at the same location. They're all shot off from the same place they are July 4th, with the exception that we don't have the fire danger problems.
Even in a dry winter, you can have fire danger problems, right?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, statistically and historically and through my experience, we catch them really, really quick on New Year's Eve compared to July 4th. Just because you're looking at a temperature swing of 60 to 70 degrees, humidity in January in the evening, number one, is higher than during the day, and then not to mention the cooler temperatures. And it's just, from a scientific standpoint, it's a much smaller percentage of a concern.
Okay. Well, I think that if we did move it back to a summer date, and I'm not even specifying what summer date, that Summer Nights, Main Street Square, those guys could probably have some kind of an activity around this that would help with crowd dispersal. You know I ran the Heritage Festival for a couple years, and we were the central point for people gathering, and of course there was just an enormous strain on our garbage and disposal systems. But anyway, I still think it could be a great event citywide. A couple things that I'm thinking of while we talk here, and this is probably for your committee to think about, but I think if we have it on the 4th of July, that it might actually diminish the amount of private fireworks that we have going on in town. Because everybody would be able to go and see and get their fireworks fixed and, not be shooting them off in their own neighborhoods, hopefully. That might be one of the good outcomes of this. Location, yeah, let's change it, Let's look at the Central States Fair, work with those guys. They got miles of concrete, so, it might be a better place out there. I don't know, and they've got lots of parking. So, there's locations, and you know that. We can work on that. One idea that I had as we talked about this is we have no rally stuff. I mean, we have nothing to get rally people to come to Rapid City. So maybe doing something during the rally might be kind of cool to, draw the bikers back in and have a big celebration for them. A lot of them are veterans, so it could be a starting point for us to have some kind of way to get some of the rally crowd and the money they bring, back into Rapid City. We haven't had that since the Harley Owners Group moved out of, the Civic Center, really. So I'm willing to look at different locations and also different dates, but still keep it in the summertime so families can attend. Thank you.
If the chair can have the privilege of making a suggestion for the committee to form a motion is to authorize the staff to form a fireworks committee to determine time and place for the fireworks display. No, I can't make a motion. So if that's all right with the committee, I'm open for a discussion.
Okay. I move to form a committee to look at the time and location of the annual fireworks display to start in 2017.
Starting in 2017. Thank you. The motion is made by Alderwoman Drew and seconded by Alderman Laurenti to authorize the formation of a fireworks committee to determine time and place for a fireworks display starting in 2017, year 2017. Okay. Any other, I see at the fire department. Chief Multiburn?
Sorry to interrupt. Just for clarification, though, we still have 2016 to deal with. So if we go with the 2017 date, that means we will not have a city-sponsored fireworks display in the entire calendar year of 2016. So for clarification, would you like to continue with the New Year's show in 16 and an alternate site and time for 17 and 18 if you want to push it back to the 4th of July? I'm open to that. I'm just saying, I don't know if you guys want to go a whole year without, or...
I don't want to go a year without.
Okay, I'll yield to your suggestions here, but right now, it would limit us for this year if we made the motion as to 2017. So could we start it in 2016?
No, because we can't get a fireworks place to do this in 2016. So I still think we can look at alternate dates and times. Because not everybody is booked in August if they run a fireworks company. It's not usually our best month fire danger-wise either. But, I think depending on what kind of a location you end up with, it might kind of mitigate the actual danger that we're looking at for fires. So I'm not willing to just say, let's just not have it in 2016. I think that would be a big issue for a lot of people that are my constituents. So let's throw that to the committee. Have them look at that a little bit.
Okay. All right. Since we've gone way past our 5 minutes, anything else? Alderman Laurenti, anything else? You made the second, okay, to that? Are you okay with that second? Yep. Any other discussion? Not seeing any lights. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That'll be the motion for Monday night. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Now, moving on to item number 18 is to authorize mayor and finance officer to sign life safety loan agreement with Ramada Inn in the amount not to exceed $320,000 contingent upon receiving an irrevocable letter of credit to be approved by the city attorney's office. And I'm not seeing any lights here, but move to approve by Alderman Laurenti, second by Alderwoman Drew. Seeing no other discussion, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, item number 19 is the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6100 to add microbreweries as conditional use in the central business district by amending section 17.16.030 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion made by Alderman Laurenti, seconded by Alderwoman Drew. And I see Vicky is up there at the podium. Anything to add to this?
Mr. Chair, just here to answer any questions that you might have, but we certainly are supporting the recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 20 is a request by KS West LLC and SK East LLC to consider an application for resolution creating Buffalo Crossing Tax Increment District and project plan. And I do have a couple of speakers on this, I see, and open up the floor to the committee first, if I may, is to Alderman Laurenti. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I have a question for Ms. Horton, if I may, please.
Yes. Patsy, if you'll introduce yourself first.
Patsy Horton, Long Range Planning Manager.
Thank you. Alderman Laurenti.
Patsy, on this particular TIF creation, I guess my question was to the, and this might be better for the TIF committee, but my question really has to do with procedure in the TIF committee and the but-for statements for the TIFs, if not for the TIFs. Do we have any defined threshold where we're looking for anything that disqualifies a TIF in the but-for statement, which is part of the required information that's needed in a TIF? Is there anything that a developer would have? Are there any statements that would disqualify a particular TIF for approval?
One of the application requirements is that they identify how they consider the TIF to meet their criteria. And part of that requirement is, a statement that says that the project can't move forward without tax increment financing.
Right.
The applicant did submit that information, and it has been linked to both the Tax Increment Review Committee meeting and the Planning Commission.
Right. I understand that. My question, and I guess that's why I kind of almost prefaced my own question with this might be better dealt with at the TIF committee level, because it seems to me, and this is my opinion, of course, as I am not a fan of tax increment financing deals, is that we are not following our own procedure. We ask for a but-for statement, but we don't have anything that defines whether those statements are qualified or not qualified. And honestly, I don't know that we have anybody who ultimately has the ability to define whether they're qualified or not, because we don't have any definitions that pertain to that. So that's really just a matter of me bringing that up at the next TIF committee, which I know we have on the 29th, and I will be there for that. So
Good.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
And just a second, Patsy, any follow-ups that we need on that?
If you have any questions, I can provide you with a brief presentation or, direct questions if you'd rather.
Okay. Anything from you? I haven't got a motion yet, the chair.
Move to approve.
And so this isn't going to be difficult here. One, so I'll lean to our city attorney for parliamentary procedure. So I haven't got a second on this, so the motion fails for a lack of a second. Can the chair second a motion?
Yeah, the chair can participate in a second vote.
Thank you. I'll second Alderwoman's motion. Any other discussion from the committee? Oh, all right, Alderman Laurenti, just beat the buzzer.
Thank you, Chair. And if the committee will allow me just a bit of latitude, it is germane. I'll make my point of it being germane at some point, hopefully. But Patsy, if you can, if you will, again on TIFs, and I know that we have some developments like with Holiday Fuel and gas stations. Are they in the process of submitting an application at all? Are we aware of any application from them?
For this particular property,
No, not this particular property.
Holiday?
Just in general, with all of the different developments that they're doing in Rapid City.
Generally, the developments for Holiday gas stations come in with some sort of planned development. We've seen 2 or 3 of them. You know, there's one at Rushmore Crossing. There's another one at the corner of East Boulevard and Omaha Street. I know that there is at least one more site for Holiday Hills, but I've not actually seen that one yet.
But no application for a tax increment financing deal for any of the developments that they're planning or doing now?
No.
Okay. And the point of this is that, and my opposition to TIFs is just that, is that the ability to do developments, and all of us are very aware of Holiday's development on Omaha Street and the vacation of the building, the burying of public utilities, which is going to occur as I'm seeing it, the excavation of the site, is that it's proof positive that developments happen in Rapid City without creating a burden like a TIF for the rest of the taxpayers, which is the general fund. And so this is why my opposition is so adamant, because I know that prior even to 1983, which is when we began TIFs, developments were done without these TIF deals, which put great burden on the general fund, and they do, because somebody has to pay for those new services that we're not gaining in tax, because the new tax amounts being used to pay for these, for this one, $5 million approximately in a TIF. And so this is why I will not vote for the TIF. This city can do a better job. We can do something different, but there's a refusal, because we've talked about it, there's a refusal to do something other than creating this burden for the general fund. And so I will not support this TIF. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Laurenti. If I can ask Patsy Horton a couple of clarifications. I was almost wondering what the Holiday questions were, and thank you for the clarification why they were made as a point of consideration. So, Patsy, is there any public improvements, and I believe, if I recall correctly, on a TIF, there has to be some kind of public improvement in a TIF. So in the comparison between these two, what Alderman Laurenti has brought forward is there any public improvements to the Holiday service stations compared with this project that's coming forward with any public improvements?
There may be some capacity issues, but I'm not sure. I'll have to defer to Public Works for any kind of public utility improvements for Holiday, especially at the corner where McKee used to be.
And one of the qualifications within a TIF is that there must be a public improvement, and I was thinking I saw some public improvements within this.
There are public improvements proposed within this particular district. However, in 2011, there were some changes made to the state legislation, and it allows more than just public improvements. There's a grant opportunity, but it's all dependent on whether the council approves that or not. So generally, in the past, it's always been, to fund public improvements that the community couldn't fund, but now there's an option for additional funding for other things as long as the council approves it.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments from the panel? The motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. And the chair votes aye on this as well. So motion carries 2-1. And let's see, let's move on to item number 21. From the City Attorney's Office, a second reading recommendation of ordinance 6102 designating the Rapid City Fine Arts Council as the entity responsible for management and coordination of the artistic activities in the area, commonly known as Art Alley, by adding section 2.80.060 to the Rapid City Municipal Code. And the chair will recognize Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. And I also rise in opposition to this, as I had at the first reading of it at the council level, for the very same reasons that I stated. And I'll just briefly put those out, which is the fact that the permitting process is really the new enforcement part of this, which is going to help the police, which I support, beyond the fact that I support Art Alley. The permitting process can be done without this ordinance, without involving the city, which creates some liability, whether it be limited or not. We are creating a liability situation that we would not have if the Rapid City Arts Council just started a permitting process, which would help the police identify those individuals more readily. And, you know, if they're there marking graffiti types of things, that's what the permitting process does. And that's the thrust of what is being sold here, except for the fact that the city does not need to do it by ordinance. The Rapid City Arts Council could be doing that without this particular ordinance. And so I will not support increasing a potential liability for the city without any due cause. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the chair will recognize Alderwoman Drew.
I will support the establishment of this ordinance. I do want the city to be part of this project, and in its, at least in trying to relegate who's able to paint, decorate, whatever you want to say, to be in the alley working. And so
Artistic work.
Artistic work in the alley. It's great. I love Art Alley, and I want to support the city being part of this ordinance, because the people that have to enforce it are requesting our input on this, and I'm going to support this ordinance.
Thank you. And the chair's also got one final comment as well, as just a reminder for the public. It is that it's difficult for a secondary entity to have a permit based on a current or a different owner's building, and that's where the complication is, and that's where it's needed for the use of another private entity or another person's property to have the art placed upon it. So that permission process is spelled out in this ordinance. So not seeing any other comments. Those on this motion is to approve. There is no motion? Sorry. Thank you, Maggie, for bringing that. I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion made, and the chair will second it to approve. Those in favor say aye. Aye. And the motion, and to oppose? Okay. And the chair did vote aye on this one as well. So, okay. Item 22 is introduction and first reading of 6101 to codify the process of commercial parking permits by adding section 10.44 to the Rapid City Municipal Code. Chair will entertain a motion or discussion.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Laurenti to approve and second by Alderwoman Drew. Seeing no other lights or any other discussion, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Anything else? Motion by Laurenti, second by Drew to adjourn. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.